Tonight's film, Unraveled, is about maybe a lesser-known individual, attorney Mark Dreyer, who embezzled hundreds of millions of dollars and took a large legal empire down with him. The filmmaker, Marc Simon, was himself an attorney. Well, I guess he still is an attorney, but he worked for Dreyer, and he was granted unusual access to his former employer while Dreyer was under house arrest and waiting to be sentenced. Joined by the film's composer, Chris Hajian. We don't often get a chance to meet composers, and you probably don't think of music as playing a crucial role in documentary films. A lot of them are just without much of a musical score. But I think you'll see here that Chris's score does add to the poignancy of the film. And so it'll be interesting to speak with him as well as with Marc Simon, the director of the movie. Then next to him, the composer, Chris Hajian. Chris wrote the music for another documentary coming out this spring called A First Position, about young dancers competing. And he has written music for many independent features, TV, movies, and series, and short films also. How did you and Chris have worked together before? You had known him, and tell us about how you decided to work together and what your ideas were about the music for this.
Sure. And I'm not just saying this because he's sitting here. I'm extremely fortunate to have Chris on my team. Both Chris and the cinematographer Bob Richmond are key components to what have made my last two films successful. When it was my second film, I met with many composers and picked Chris, and we just had a connection. But you know, who knew at that point? And when we worked together, it was a very great creative collaboration, and that's hard to come by. And what I mean by that is I don't speak music, I'm very visual. And I can't carry a tune, I can't play an instrument, and I'm able to give Chris a feeling. And we'll talk more about that. But then, so when it came to composing this film, I mean, there wasn't, it was just Chris on board, and I'm very fortunate.
It was interesting for me because when when Mark described the film, he's like, it's basically a guy in his apartment for the entire film. And I was like, wow, that's going to be really challenging because obviously the story is so compelling, you want to stay with that. So as a composer, especially in documentaries, you're really working, you want to work with a delicate hand because this is something that Mark is so skilled at, and our communication was so great because every time we wanted to address a scene, I'll give you a prime example, all that stuff when Mark was young, growing up, all that footage of him. So, when you see 8mm footage of an innocent Mark Dreyer at that time in his family, it's very easy to over-sentimentalize that. And like, as a composer, this is where the director and composer are key because, yes, you want to nuance that, you want to give some depth, but you don't want to force that down people's throats. You don't want to tell them what to feel. You want them to kind of just get more insight into what the character's about. And that's where Mark, as a documentarian, is really key. And we were really checking ourselves back and forth on that because this whole film is complex like that. And so many people will have different opinions of Mark. Both Marks maybe, but Mark Dreyer especially, as far as how they interpret him as a human being.
Did you have ideas of what kind of a score you wanted or what the mood was? I mean, what kind of guidelines did you give to Chris, or did you leave it mostly to him to decide?
We discussed themes, and so at the broadest there's going to be the crime theme, there's going to be the life arc theme, and then there's going to be nuances which Chris is going to bring out and build, and I want him to talk about more of that.
Yeah, I mean, what's great is what happens commonly in a lot of films is a director or editors, they'll put in a lot of temp music. Mark doesn't do that, and it's wonderful because it does kind of free me. And we worked once before, so there's a lot of trust between us, which is the most important component. But like when I first saw it, I realized there's that, like Mark said, there's the two components. There's that crime motif that I keep using, and I kind of bring it back and modify it every time he keeps talking about the deception and the fraud. And then there's that really introspective kind of psychological stuff that kind of addresses his state of mind and the complexity of what he was going on. And that's sort of the two pieces of glue that I think tie the story together. And then within that, there's of course nuances of all different things splattered in. But those are the two components. And the film is like a time bomb because it's dealing with a specific time frame. So I wanted to keep that as a kind of a constant churning, momentum going. And I think it keeps, helps people get even more invested in the story and its countdown. It is funny because when you scored a picture, you really are living with these characters, these people, and you develop certain connections. And it's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. Your captors, you become like, sort of your captors. So, in the process, what I do, so much of it is refining and repetition over and over again. And it did affect me because I'm a parent, and as a dad, and when I look at the destruction that he caused to his entire family, the name, that's epic. That's just, it's take the money out of it. Just look what he's done. What's going to come of his kids? They're going to live with that name the rest of their lives, and like, how's that going to affect them? So like, I don't think the story just ends with him going to prison. So some of that was very relevant to what I was trying to get to, and kind of deepening those emotions. But that's what I was basically working on from the sense of a parental sense.
Yeah.